case study number 2. I hope you can hear me. I have this kind of like a really, thin voice, so bear with me. So super grateful, and thank you, Anna, for inviting. Not so much about speaking, because I feel like we already covered everything that I have to say. So thank you. I'm sorry you have to listen to this again, but more because actually learning. I think I was rewriting this same presentation mentally, because I was like, I already kind of like don't really believe what I believed a second ago because of your questions, because our discussion. I think this is really important. And it's really important because I feel like we're all learning, so everything that I want to say here, it's not something that, I can stand for 100%, it's something that we're trialing. And we, as an organization, wanted to actually be brave and start doing the things, trial, learn, fail. And I probably would be pointing out where we actually failed, not because I have some weird things where I like to embarrass myself publicly, but because that's where our steepest learning curves, and if you're doing the same, don't do what we did wrong, or do, but let us know. So I'm a landscape architect, urban planner, and I thought I'll be really out of space talking here because I work for an organization that is a planning authority developer, but it feels like we touched quite a lot in terms of importance of local authority and urban planning, so kind of like fits well. So as well, thanks for that. Very quickly, we are not a typical borough or kind of planning authority. We were established by the mayor to deliver legacy of 2012 Olympics. So we all invested money into that, so we expect a lot, and rightly so. But it's also interesting that 48% of the area is actually the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. We manage the park, we're a regeneration agency, we're also developer because we own land, and we are planning authority, so a huge responsibility. And obviously for us to actually assume that responsibility also when it comes to gender equality. 100 years overdue. Unfortunately, some of the tragic events made us actually all think about, as a profession, built environment professional, what are we doing? What is our part in terms of gender equality and safety? So in 2021, I think a lot of organizations, but including LDC, made internal Women and Girls Safety Project boards. So essentially, volunteers from different directors came together to kind of like start thinking, what are we doing and what can we do? Again, we thought quite a lot about this, but one of the things as a planner that I thought, well, we are kind of like taught that, urban planning is gender neutral. So just assuming that, as those bikes, like everyone can ride the same bike, so we just produce the same. And that's not even true, because it's not even gender neutral. It's actually designed to kind of like, I guess, really serve the needs of cisgender, able-bodied men. And I don't think that's intentional, but that obviously happened, and we are here we are. So instead of that, and instead of thinking about equality, we are now thinking about equity, actually understanding. And the problem really was, once we realized that, is like, what do we understand? Do we actually have enough evidence and data to do something about this? And we felt we didn't. And Imogen said about the act that we have, and I can name all of the policies because I'm a policy planner by name and where they are in the documents. But there is a data just to show that we don't know how to apply them. We actually don't know what they mean when we talk about the equality and equity and, like all of the things. It seems like we're just like constantly failing to do the same. Design is not obviously the only solution, is not a solution in itself, but we for sure know that inequality is spatially reinforced by design. I think we all have experience of that. And inadequately designed public spaces make life difficult for everyone, but the data is also showing that disproportionately affect women, girls, and gender diverse people. So with all of that, one of the first steps that we did is to step back and say, well, we actually don't know anything because we keep failing. So let's go and consult women and girls, gender diverse people, and this is the first failure that we did because we had 524 comments to that 265 respondents, but I think 80% were white, female, educated, certain age. And we were just like, okay. Action number one for us, you cannot just expect that people are going to come and talk to you. They don't have trust, they don't have means, they've never been asked before, they're not going to come to talk to you now. So, lesson number one. We got the data, nothing here that you haven't heard, lighting, huge issue, but I wish it was just lighting, so we can tackle that. Obviously, then it's antisocial behavior, intimidation, harassment, group of men. As a local planning authority and a designer, architect, and landscape architect is not something that you can do, so you really need to partner up with everyone else and your stakeholders to tackle this comprehensively, and otherwise little you can achieve on your own. So we summarize all of the data, and one of the important things that we wanted to do is to commit to actually pledge. So this is our evidence base, is the survey, great report. We obviously important to say that we looked into intersectionalities of women and girls, as we said, is not one homogeneous group, how they perceive public spaces. It really depends on the background, etc. We talked about that. And this is actually what we want to achieve, is that this is our baseline against which the result of the urban interventions that we want to obviously do to improve gender equality should be measured. So we need to measure as well what we're doing and where we are failing or where we are succeeding. And I'm just going to focus, there are a lot of quick wins and a lot of things that we did. For example, money that we collect from developments now, if someone wants to use that on the project, we strictly ask them to go back to the evidence and let us know how they're addressing that. So all of the powers where we have as a planning authority, we're actually holding accountable people who are using those to improve the picture. And just three, I thought I will pick quickly in terms of, or not so quickly, I apologize, in terms of a quick wins and something that we trialed, we failed, or we don't know how we succeeded, but I thought I will share. So first one, we're talking a lot about this, nature and safety and lighting. So in terms of the park, we actually have intentionally designed the park as two different character areas. One is this one, and it's actually really interesting because we got positive comments. People do, women and girls feel safe, a lot of natural surveillance, consistent lighting, a lot of things going on, but it's intentionally designed to be like that, versus where we are obviously also intentionally design our corridors, because we also need to plan for wildlife. And we had a lot of comments, but we couldn't say, oh, well, we don't care about your comments because this is a wildlife corridor. So we felt we now have to do something. But obviously we're not going to go on it because there are priorities, and equally is important, and nature is important. So we thought we did something smart. We are obviously trialing this, but we thought we're going to inform people. So we're going to say why it is important to keep the areas dark. Hoping people will appreciate and that will be on board with us, and also trying to where we really don't have any powers and influence. For example, along the canal, we just don't have ownership of the land. We said follow the lit route, so just providing the alternative, very hopefully simple solution. We try to avoid any alarming language, saying safety or anything of that kind, because we don't want to give people idea or also scare people. But we thought, this is just an alternative, so hopefully that's as helpful as we can be. And the other one was actually a hugest failure. I feel like you all can see what's wrong here, and this is where we actually met first. Make Space for Girls, a dream team, helped us a lot. We actually designed this with teenagers, girls and boys designing together, and we ended up with this. What is really wrong with this is also that even this illustration is male-dominated. You cannot see, but if you actually look, the illustration, like the little figures, are all boys and men. So anyway, after we learned all what we learned, we went back to isolate the girls and challenge them. They said, some remember designing this, and they said, oh yeah, but you asked us to design a space for teenagers, so that's what we did. This is a place for teenagers. But they said, is that the space where you would go? They're like, no. So why did you tell us it's good? Well, because that's for teenagers. We're conditioned. Girls are conditioned. And when we ask them, what do you want? They don't know, of course, because there's nothing that they can point out to say, this is what I want. Just not enough examples. Anyway, we use the mayor advocates, designers, to help us to actually have girls as clients. So they're writing our brief now. And I'm really going to touch this. We're also writing the guidance, informed as well. I didn't have this image before, but should really be here as well. Because we said that we don't want to replicate everything that you were saying. It's applicable for any space. It's not just a park. That's all exactly what we're going to have. But one of the things that we also learn is that when you actually be careful, when you try to apply some design principles, if you don't put into context and you don't design for specific people, it can really be wrong, because that's what we did and ended up with something really awkward. I think our whole guidance is going to be, you have to co-design with girls. So go into that, and we're going to put a lot of text how we're going to force developers and everyone else to do that. Our guidance also is going to go, I mean, yours does as well, but we're going to go a little bit further beyond just safety and freedom from violence, because you already cover all of that, but for the maybe public spaces, it's kind of like a little bit more complex. I'll just end here. There is a recent audit by Art UK that actually shows that there are more statues of animals in London than of named women. So, it's not just safety, it's actually, everything else. So,